Hello, all of you vaingloriously wonderful people. This is the Vapid FMJ, and I'm about to find out if it'll off-road. This is the second most voted for vehicle this week, coming in with 7 votes. You can vote for the vehicles that you want to see featured in Will It Off-Road by clicking on the link in the description down below. And of course, speaking of votes, next week we will have some higher vote counts because I do record these on like 3-week cycles. So when we get to the end of the 3-week cycle, it's always a lower vote count. But we'll be back in the 20s or 30s for vehicles starting next Thursday. Oh, got me a hiker. Also, speaking of votes, I was looking at the forum that you can submit votes on, and I realized, as I run off the road, that hasn't happened in a long time. But I realized there have been almost 1,350 total votes in the entire time that I've had Will It Off-Road voting available. And it's been open for less than a year, so that's quite a bit when you stop and think about it. Granted, we've had some people vote like 100 times for one car before, but still, you guys are really turning it in. And I appreciate it because it helps me know that I'm featuring the cars that you want to see. So, the FMJ, let's talk about that now that we're, a minute and a half into this video. Not a bad supercar. It's one that for a long time I thought about getting rid of. Simply because it just doesn't stand out. I mean, yeah, it has amazing looks. And it's unique, I think, among the supercars in its appearance. It's got definitely a Ford GT-inspired rear end with more of like the Aston Martin, the Vulcan front end to it. But hey, Ford used to own Aston Martin, so it's okay that those two are mixed in these. But it does all right. I mean, we've got a lot of wheel spin, but it's nothing that can't be dealt with. More than anything, like a lot of the supercars, and one we're going to see in a few weeks especially, a lot of the supercars are really lightweight. So that means all the little bumps in the terrain tend to bounce it around quite a bit. So that's something you just have to be mindful of if you're going to take a supercar off-roading. Well, it's one of the heavier supercars, and, hey, you got nothing to worry about. Taking Nero off-roading, well, I mean, that thing weighs more than a cruise ship, so, it's fine. It stays nice and planted. But these lightweight cars, they bounce around quite a bit. But even when the wheels do spin, I'm able to keep it under control, get it back off the throttle a little bit, and usually I can find traction here in the FMJ. Making a good time. It might beat that 3-minute mark. If not, it's going to be really, really close to it. But I just continue to climb with really no drama to speak of. Just exceptional wheel spin. Just because it keeps losing grip. Coming up now to our last little bit of turns, to the final push to the top. Yeah, we might see that 3-minute mark here. Just all comes down to this bit right here. Oh, but that's a ton of wheel spin. Yeah, that cost a little bit of time around the rock. And we are up in 3 minutes, 2 seconds. Will the FMJ off-road? Yeah, it did a pretty good job, especially considering how low it sits to the ground and how lightweight it is. Good job from the FMJ. Beautiful car. But that means we now have to take it back down Mount Chiliad to see how it does in more of a controlled descent manner. Which I don't foresee too many issues. Again, it'll just come down to the issue of lightweight. Just because it'll want to bounce around, and going downhill, that's even more of a problem. Because bouncing means it goes up in the air while the roadway is dropping away from you. Which just kind of accentuates the fact that, oh shit, I'm in the air, my wheels aren't touching anything. There was a good example right there as we took out a bit of fence, shaving off a lot of that speed just to get it more under control. Very good brakes on the FMJ. I mean, you can hit them hard in the dirt and not lock up. It's kind of impressive. Around our first big bend there, no drama. Coming up to our first jump. Oh, no, we're not. Sorry, my bad. I thought we were coming up to the first jump. I get confused sometimes. We're coming up to the uneven bit of terrain is what we're coming up to, and it bounced around as to be expected. Here comes our first little jump, and An okay landing. The back end did start to slide a little bit on me there, but it was easy enough to get back under control. What is a little frustrating is every time I do get on the power, it wants to spin the wheels and make the back end step out a little bit. So I've got to be very careful every time I get on the gas. But right now, I'm just kind of letting the thing do some engine braking. Just tapping the brakes every once in a while to keep the speed down. Not a whole lot of gas at this point. Here comes the big final jump, and kind of ugly on the landing. It stayed flat, but then it got bounced around quite a bit. Making our final big drop here. Gotta watch out for those logs. They'll bite you in the ass every time. On the day that I'm recording this, I just got done recording the next 6 vehicles for Will It Off-Road, and Commander Hobo had some issues with those logs multiple times during those recordings. They're vicious. But as we come down off the dirt onto the asphalt, we're turning in a really good time with this car. It's been mostly drama-free again. It's just a decent car. It's just in terms of performance and everything, it just doesn't really stand out for me. But we are down 2 minutes, 37 seconds. So let's take it back to the top of the mountain. And in a rare nighttime damage descent, fling this thing off the side of the hill. And see what happens. I know I say it a lot. I kind of talk about it in every video now. But this is a newer car. So there's not a very complicated damage model in this. And if you thought that was a body part that you saw there on the ground falling, it wasn't. It was part of the police barricade or whatever it is up at the top of that ramp. It was just a piece of wood from that. But since it's a very new car, the damage it'll take will be very, very slight, aside from, you know, ripping one of its doors off. There's not really a hood to speak of on this thing. I mean, you can't. I think you can open up the back window. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've featured this car in a garage tour, and I don't really drive it all that often, so I don't really pop the doors and trunk all that often either. So I don't remember what all opens on this car. Maybe somebody can enlighten me in the comments down below. One of my favorite features on this car, though, are those really unique tail lamps. I love how Rockstar took the time to, instead of just slapping a taillight on the back, actually made it the big piece of glass that completely illuminates. I think it's a nice touch. Nailed that jump through the first little tunnel there. Not so lucky on the second one. We're probably going to bounce around quite a bit through this muddy, bumpy bit here. Make it difficult to keep under control. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. It's just getting thrown all over the place. But as we make the last little push-up, manage to nail the wood pile, kind of knocked us over to the side. But we are down in 1 minute, 46 seconds. Let's take a look at the damage on the FMJ. Most of the lights and all the windows are gone. The right door is missing. And if you look closely up by that right front wheel, there is some minor body damage. And of course, it has slightly bent wheels. But that brings us to our next vehicle, the Imponte Phoenix. First most voted for vehicle this week, coming in with 8 votes. Do not forget to vote for the vehicles that you want to see by clicking on that link in the description down below. So even though it's not a blue Phoenix, it should still get the job done. I do like this car. It's a bit tail happy. If ever you've driven one, you know that. But once you get used to it and know what to expect from it, it actually becomes a rather pleasant car to drive. Makes a nice sound. Has a lot of customization options for you to create a really unique looking ride. And now it's time to find out how it does off-road. Which so far it's behaving off-road like most muscle cars. You gotta be careful on the throttle, because it definitely has a ton of torque to put down. But I am minding the throttle just to make sure I don't go spinning too much out of control. But I am also trying to get some speed on this. And starting in next week's Will It Off-Road, for at least the next 6 vehicles, just as kind of an experiment, I got a lot more aggressive during the ascent portion. It means there's going to be a few more mistakes here and there, but we might also see some slightly better times. In the past in Willet Off-Road, I try to strike that balance between getting a good time but keeping the car under control at all times. But going forward, I think what I'm going to do is just try to really push the car to its edge and find out where that limit is. And then hopefully, because I have, now gone up and down this mountain, well, if this is the 54th Willet Off-Road, plus the 9 we did in the snow, so that's a lot. It's over 120 climbs up this mountain in the past year. So, I have gotten a little bit of experience to know the trail itself, to know what to expect and how different types of cars respond, even if I've never had a specific car up the mountain. I think it's time to get a little more aggressive with it and see if we can't turn in some better times. See if we can't consistently break that 3-minute mark more often. Don't know that that's going to happen here in the Phoenix, though, because we're already at 2 minutes and we're only about halfway up. Yeah, I don't think this is going to hit the 3 minute. Well, we're a little over halfway. Not a whole lot of wheel spin. The back end does get away from me, and the wheels do spin every once in a while. But it's real easy to fix that with this car. It's not got so much torque that just barely touching the gas always spins the wheels, like we've seen in some other cars. This one, I am able to find that sweet spot on the accelerator where I can get some grip. Well, you know what, though? It might actually hit right around the 3-minute mark. I take back what I said earlier. It's going to be close. It's going to be really close. Again, it's all going to come down to how it does here on the back side of this cliff. And I had to turn around, so that cost me some time. And there's the wheel spin. And so I'm going to have to take a bit of a run at this one. It's just not going to have the grip to get this big, heavy car up that hill. It's just not. So get that speed, excuse me, get that speed, push up, and we're there. Around the rocks, we are up. 3 minutes, 26 seconds. Will the Phoenix Off-Road? Sure, probably not the best car for it, but it got here. And in a decent time. Not the best, but pretty decent. So after taking yet another drink of water, because I've been recording a ton of videos today, and nailing the observation deck again. Did I do that last week with a car? I think I did. It's time to take this thing on a controlled descent, which, I've driven the Phoenix quite a bit, but not enough to remember how the brakes do in this car, so it was kind of a fun experiment for me to see exactly what I could get. You can see I'm being really cautious here at the beginning, just trying to find out what the brakes are capable of, how much it's going to bounce around, and the answer is the brakes are doing okay, and it's bouncing around a minimal amount, so this shouldn't be too difficult to get this thing back down the mountain in a decent time. Just got to be careful when I get back on the throttle that I don't spin out of control and send myself flying off the mountain. Big turn there, completely drama-free, really tight hairpin here, and again, effortless. Really, really uncomposed, though, over that bumpy bit, the uneven bit. First jump, and not as nose-heavy as some other vehicles that we've seen in the past, so kind of impressive. Got on a little too hard on the throttle. The back end started to come around, but it was easy enough to fix. Almost went crooked off that one, but I fixed it just the last second. Lucky hiker there that he wasn't in my line. Another big jump coming up, and another nice landing from the Phoenix. It's really composed on these landings. They just really absorbs that landing really well. Last big jump, I got a little sideways in the air, but it wasn't a big deal to correct. So this has been kind of impressive from a muscle car, especially one that's on the lower end of the racing side of things. This isn't a car you really want to take racing, but it does really well here in the dirt. Maybe that's what it was made for. Oh, kind of hit a bump there that I don't normally hit. Sent me a little off to the side. Get a little squirrely down through here. Taking another drink of water to try to keep my voice going. Trying to crank out a ton of videos this week so that when the DLC drops, I can just worry about DLC videos and not have to worry about anything else. Who knows, by the time this video comes out, it might have already come out. It's hard to say. That's still a couple days away. But we are down in 2 minutes, 38 seconds. So I'll drive the Phoenix back up to the top. And we are there, and it's raining. Just instantly the weather changed. Rain doesn't matter so much for a damage descent, so I went ahead with it. Just makes for the video a little bit louder, that's all. Already the Phoenix is attempting to get rid of its hood. But, oh, it looked like we lost the front bumper, and there goes the hood. Since this is a car that's been in the game since release, we should see not only a lot of body parts come off, but the ability to actually damage what remains of the car. So, it's wanting to go down ass first. Whoop, never mind, it flipped around, but only for a second. And you know what? Since it wants to go ass first, I'll just go along for the ride. Oh, there goes the door. Oh, shit. It's taking a beating, isn't it? Oh, my God. All right, let's see if I can't get this thing turned around here. There we go. Got turned around. Don't know how long it's going to last, though, because it is really wet. And this car does not like the rain, even on regular roads. So here in the dirt, it's going to be even more difficult to keep it going in a straight line. Or maybe not. That actually was pretty good down through there. Nailed the tree and the boulder a little bit there. Through the first tunnel, now we're into the muddy, bumpy bits. Let's see how the Phoenix copes with this. Getting a little slidey, but not too bad. Again, just trying to control it via throttle more than anything. Hit that boulder and rolled it right over. Commander in a support helicopter instead of a vehicle or a car this week. Guess he didn't want to get any of his cars muddy in the rain. Coming up around the log pile. Managed to hit it just a little bit. And in the best finish to Will It Off-Road ever, we're down in 1 minute, 50 seconds. Let's take a look at the damage on the Phoenix. All the lights and windows are gone, but not the T-tops. The hood, the front bumper, the fenders, and the right door are gone. We have some moderate body damage and bent wheels. Don't forget to go vote for the vehicles that you want to see in Will It Off-Road. And until next time, I'm Brandon, reminding you to stay vainglorious.